That's a great point. That's why, like, you need that humor to balance it out, and
Mhm.
not just a little lines, like something absolutely absurd.
Hey, sports nerds, welcome to a Nerdy Bunch review of Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 7. My name's English Dave, and joining me with a piece of red string is my co
Uh,
host, Tim Sportsman. What's
no,
up, Tim?
no, I'm good. I'm good, man. That was totally unnecessary. Baroy is just having oh my God, he was loving it. And he's like, all right, I got it now. We're going to have one guy in the middle and 5 men attached to you. It's like, no.
that whole sequence, I was just like holding my groin area, just like oof.
Yeah,
Oh, I felt the pain. I'm just
yeah,
like, why?
yeah.
It's funny, but no, this is unnecessary right now. Why? Because I was watching with my wife, and it was just like when JB's like, okay, but why are they connected to our penises? I was
Yeah.
just like,
What?
what? I
and
was
then
just
and then Ted at the end just like gets on the field and Isaac's on the side, knocks him down with
oof,
whoever he was attached to, maybe Jan or somebody. And I'm like, oh no. And when Jamie almost like thought he like lost it,
oof,
like that
oof.
was,
When he just ripped right
and
off.
then Donnie's
Oof.
like, his dick is good. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, dude, it was such a great episode. Totally unnecessary, but why not? Why not?
Why not? Why not?
Uh,
Yes, we had so far episode 7, aptly titled "The Strings That Bind Us," and this was an episode about coming together. Under various terms and conditions, people are coming together. Sometimes under good situations, sometimes under bad situations, and everything in between. Things that bind us and connect us. As always, we're going to break down the episode based on each character's narrative. And we started talking about the team. Let's talk about the team storyline. This carries on off of last week's episode when Ted discovered this new.
Total football.
He fully discovered it, but Coach Beard gives us the rundown on the actual true history of total football.
Thank you, Coach Beard, for giving me a nice lesson and
Right?
reminding me why we don't like Pep Guardiola and why we don't like Manchester City and Bayern and Barca. And I'm like, get out of here. We don't need to deal with this guy.
We all know football is life, but beautiful life is total football. I love when he says that to Danny, and Danny's like, "Oh my god, oh, oh my god!" And so they decide that the team needs to try this new total football technique, which also means working together. So after a bit of extra training by Coach Roy, who's Wizzo, making them run like crazy and throwing up everywhere, they now have to actually try a new technique that Ted gives to them, where they all have to be the other person. I love that moment with Danny and Isaac switching character places. I thought they did a really good, like, oh, I'm angry.
Yeah. It's like, you don't have to do the voices too. It's like, no, way better. Way
So
better. Do the
what?
voices, especially the whole Coach Beard switching places with the Kit Man,
Mhm.
and like Beard's an absolute fool trying to put the water bottles together. But
Mhm.
then he gets a smooth toss right behind him. But the funny part was actually the Kit guy, like with the fake beard, and
Will.
even when he like with Will, exactly when he was like sitting in Coach Beard's chair at the end, you know,
I thought
it
that's
was
really
good.
good. And I
Yeah.
like I like the kind of build up of this narrative, right? Where it starts off again, there's the Arsenal game coming up, which I thought was hilarious.
Mm.
And they're still kind of working on, from last week's episode, trying to work together, coming together. And there's still, there's one thing, what the show plays with is that there's one thing saying, okay, guys, we need to do this together. And there's another thing executing that. Right. And this episode is more about learning to execute that, because as much
Yeah.
practice as they were taking, as much time as they were kind of switching their play, which unprecedented. You don't completely change your strategy like just before the big game, and things like that. But
Yeah.
what I like that is during that game that they were able to kind of realize the strategy properly. and that's through Jamie. We've been talking about Jamie this season. You know, what do you think that's going to go?
So first off, with the whole swapping places, I love Jamie's reaction. He's like, "Wait, coach, like, why am I not swapping?" It's like, "Well, Jamie, I thought like you like what you do, being a striker, taking the goals." And then it takes the halftime speech for him to be like, "Look, guys, hey, you may not like this, but we're doing it wrong. You got to play through me. I got to be in the middle. Danny, Rojas, you go up front. I'm going to be the middle guy." And it worked. I love that, just like you're saying. The first half, they were down 3-0 to Arsenal, whooping their ass, looking worse than anybody could imagine. But then they come in and they play in sync, and it looks beautiful. And then right at the end, Jamie has like that opening, but he does the heel kick, back pass, boom, goal. It was beautiful.
Like, even though they lost the game, they found themselves again. It's almost like, okay, going forward, this might work. Before they were trying out this new technique, but it was just trying out because coach said so. They didn't feel real to them, and it needed one of their own in Jamie to convince that, guys, we can do this. We're doing it the way that it's been, like Pep's way, but we need to do it our way.
Yes.
And I
Exactly.
like that. I like that. And in connection to that, I like the narrative of bringing the fans back. I always love seeing the fans, where it's just they complain.
They were hilarious.
I love
Especially Paul, like the big guy.
Yeah.
He like tried to be like, "You cocksuckers." It's like, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, where it's
I
like
can't do
switching
that.
places.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my
And
favorite.
then he brings out the strings, like, anybody?
Anyone?
Like,
Come on.
no.
And I loved when they're at the bar with Ted and they apologize to Ted for getting all soft on him. We've got too soft on you. We humanized you and lost all objectivity. It's just like they want to be mad at Ted again. And I like that he invited them over. And when he says to Beard, it's their team. We're just looking after or something along those lines. And I like that. It's like reminding that, yeah, you do this for the fans in part, right? It's the fans that kind of uplift you when you're down and praise you when you're up. And I just love seeing that every shot was just new people, and the Ted blames on Beard.
Yeah, the crowd kept growing.
Yeah. Which again, it's a nice way to show that connection, right? And that kind of real connection with Ted and the fans. And I always love seeing the stories of the fans. One of the major storylines in this episode also was Nate.
Yeah.
Like Nate's storyline now. Nate and what's her name again?
Jade.
Yeah, Nate and Jade.
Yeah, the hostess of Taste of Athens.
With this episode, we get to see more of Nate's home life in like a positive, happy setting. He's at his sister's, and finding out that he's just like his dad. What did you think of the whole storyline of him getting the courage to want to ask Jade out for dinner?
So first, my initial instinct when he went into the bathroom was that he was going to spit at the mirror. He's going to ask her out. He's panicking. He goes into the bathroom, so awkward, and I thought he was like going to freak out, do a spit thing, but then he looked back, and he's like, "No, I'm good," and he awkwardly walked away, and then went to go, figure out what to do. But like, I thought I was really proud of him for like, growing up. We started really liking him last episode, and it was really nice to see his growth. And similar when you were talking about him and his sister and his mom, the fact that his dad drew up this map that was like, yeah, we're 4,000 miles away, but like, will you go out with me and be like, feet across from me? Like, so he built up the courage to like build this whole, I don't know, whatever project, a little craft project, and then he goes to deliver it to her. He falls. It was so awkward too. It was so clumsy.
It's so Nate.
But like, yeah, exactly. He throws in the air, gets crushed by the car, and then she's like, "Was there something alive in it?" It's like, no. It's like, yeah, I guess if you say so. Like, but then he just asks her out, like, "Hey, you want to go out with me?" She's like, "Yeah." Simple.
And which is what I like about that he tries to ask her out the simple way. He freaks out and he goes the over elaborate way, just like his dad did. But what he shows his growth in, sometimes growth happens by choice and sometimes you're forced to grow. and this is a
Hmm.
circumstance where he's forced to grow, right? It gets crushed, and he has to make a choice. You can either just do it, or you can panic and run away. And that's where the growth
Hmm.
came from. He just like, you know what? He just does it, asks her out, and even at the end, you get a moment where the audience and he start thinking maybe she's going to stand him up. He's waiting for a bit, but then she shows up. Um,
Yeah,
what
for sure.
what I'm curious about with Nate's storyline is that, okay, yes, we're seeing him in this circumstance being nice and everything like that, but it still begs the question: what is he like when he's at work as coach?
Mm.
Because he was kind of like the asshole to the team, to the players, and he's sucking up to what's his name, Rupert, who Rupert wants him to be, the mean guy. So then what happens? Where is this nice Nate only outside of that? Is he changing at work as well? That is the question. What do you think?
Yeah. Similar to Roy Kent and how Ted Lasso is affecting him, and Roy's like, "Gosh, I hate how you've affected me," because he comes out with this sick line about the ZZ Top. He's like, "Sharp dressed men," but then he still does the dicks and strings and whatever. But like Nate, I'm sure he's positively or negatively impacted by Rupert. When he goes and sees Rupert, he's definitely not going to be his best self. He's his best self when he's with his mom. And I thought, going back, I thought it was hilarious when he's like texting his mom. I don't know if you noticed on like the iPhone, the
Mhm.
message above it was about like, "Hey, the internet's not working,"
Oh
and then he
yeah,
was just
the
like,
photo.
"No, it's just not plugged in." Like it's just so simple, but I'm like, I gotta pause this. There's definitely something
Yeah,
there.
I love
I
that.
love there's so much jam-packed details in this
Hmm,
show.
hmm.
But yeah, I think I also don't think Nate's probably going to come back to Richmond. I mean, we have 5 more episodes.
Yeah,
Maybe it will happen, but I think that uh, possibility is definitely smaller right now. But I think he just needs a better environment around him. Hopefully, this girl Jade brings out the best in him, like Jack brings out in Keeley, and like Coach Beard brings out in Ted, and how Roy brings out the best in Jamie somehow. We're very
I love
proud of
that
Jamie's
opening.
growth, and
I love that
yeah,
opening.
he's Roy's on the bike, back on the bike again.
I love
Jamie's
that.
dragging him along.
But I've been saying that for a while, that this show obviously is going to try and give us the narrative of redeeming Nate. And so far,
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
one aspect of Nate's storyline, which is his love life, we're seeing that happen. But it still remains to be seen that his redemption can't happen if he's still the same type of character he's been as a coach that we've seen. And can he still be that coach with Rupert over him? Because Rupert's not going to turn good anytime soon, or turn nice, I should say. So Nate's going to face, I'm sure we're going to get an episode where he's going to face a dilemma or crossroads where he does what Rupert wants him to do, or he does what he feels he should do, and it could be the crossroads could be between Rupert and Jade, right? Because Jade seems like a nice lady. She doesn't seem like someone that's gonna like him being the asshole version that spits in the mirror and talks shit about his players, and you know, like remember like last episode, the idiot box. Like, is he gonna still be the guy that's like, get in the idiot box and all that kind of stuff? Like, how he's gonna change it as a coach? I'm gonna be interested to see how that happens.
Well, the woman in your life often, changes who you are in
Hmm,
many other aspects. And hopefully his mom becomes a lot more involved
hmm.
now that he's with a woman too. So I'm
And
happy for
Marlena's got a
Nate.
sister, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
she seems cool.
yeah. I did like seeing the family life in a good setting, because usually when we see it, not just texting, when we see Nate with his family, it's always usually a negative light for Nate, right? He's trying to overcompensate, and his dad's being disapproving. But this is like a good time to see a positive family side to Nate, which I liked. Um, you mentioned Jack and Keeley. They're going through their whirlwind romance, and that becomes a worry for Keeley. It's just like, okay, you're doing too much, you're doing too crazy. And Rebecca tells her about love bombing. That sometimes we
Mm.
can be blind to people who are sweeping us up our feet. Rebecca even talks about her experiences and how Rupert, gave her everything, and she was swept up on her feet. And that storyline ends with Keeley's taking over and saying, "I want to take you out somewhere," which I like the fact that they went to the Taste of Athens,
Yeah.
Nate's restaurant. But what do you think about this aspect of Keely and Jack's storyline. Are there actual red flags? Do you think that they're going to be red flags there?
Potentially. I mean, as she says, love is blind, not just love bombing, love is
Yes.
blind as well. She's getting her all these flowers. And as you said with Rupert, like, I love Rebecca's line about, like, yeah, Rupert basically, his florist was able to get a castle. It's like, and it, not a nice castle, like in a shitty place, but still a
Still
castle.
a castle.
Exactly. And to buy a castle with tulip money, that says a lot for sure.
Right.
But yeah, so even the croissant had a ring in it, and
Yeah.
she had. I love the scene when they had like the on-off privacy screen, and
Mhm.
she was like embarrassed, like right after talking to Barbara, not able to like kind of confess, like, oh, by the way, I'm dating my boss, basically.
Yeah.
She was like on, off. What should we do? Oh my god, it's like Jack's like, nah, don't worry about it. Let's just tell everybody. It's like,
Yeah.
look, we're not crazy. You're not crazy, right? Like, I like you. We're having a great time. It's like we're gonna see each other, and then the guy Dan like has this whole speech.
I love Dan.
It's like, congratulations, Jack and Keely. Love is love. And then Barbara's like, shut up, sit down. Come on, that's enough.
But Barbara comes to work in her pajamas.
Efficiency, I guess. Bro, I wouldn't, especially like in New York City subway, I'm very cautious about like what clothes I wear on the subway and what clothes I bring back home. I don't know how it is in London, but I would not wear my pajamas on the subway.
No,
Definitely
not. Absolutely not. But I just, I feel like this show, that whole conversation between Rebecca and Keely, when Rebecca lets her know about all that stuff, like even sometimes the most shiny things, can rust and all that stuff. I feel that the show is kind of hinting at us that there's something there. Like there's little things that happen that I'm like, or will be said, like when Jack's like, oh, I signed it because I don't like the idea of you regifting things. So I get super jealous. I was like, oh,
Yeah, that was
or like,
rough.
how did Jack know what restaurant they were at to pay the bill? Like little things like, are you following me? Like just little things. I'm curious,
Yeah.
like where that's going. Because I like Jack, don't get me wrong. Like as is what we've seen of Jack and Keely, I like it. But
Yeah.
are they trying to insinuate that, are we love blind as the audience?
I mean, she definitely has daddy issues.
Yes.
That's 100% sure.
She has get away with murder money.
Yeah. And then Keely's like, name names. It's like, well, whoever's friends with Jeffrey Epstein,
Right.
It's like, oh wow, that was a good line.
So like, I'm curious to see where that storyline's going. And again, are Keely and Roy story, is that story over? Is it done? I don't know.
Nah, Roy's definitely way better. Jamie's a better person too. You never know.
You never know where that's going. Where do you nerdies think that's going? Let us know. Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. And the final main storyline in this episode was Sam's storyline. Sam's going through, Sam's always been the nice guy. He's always wants to see peaceful resolution. He wants to always speak to the better angels and all of us, as he says in this episode. But he finds out the hard way that people don't always think like you. He meets with Simi, the chef at his restaurant, Ola's, and she's mad and pissed off because the UK's Home Secretary, Brenda Barrett, has issues with being hostile towards refugees and immigrants. And I like the storyline because this is similar to what happened in real life, right? With Laura Ingraham and LeBron James. When she when she said, shut up and dribble. I like that kind of connection with that. And it's funny whenever they always say things like that, oh, people in sports and sports should never be political. And I always say that that's such a black and a white notion at looking at the world, because I think that whenever you have a platform where people will listen to you and all that kind of stuff, sometimes and sometimes there's a place for you to kind of say things if you have something to say to add to the conversation. And also, just because you're an athlete or a superstar or a famous person doesn't mean political things don't affect you, right? Like Sam, on top of being an athlete football player, he's also a Nigerian. So
Mm-hmm.
the narratives of immigration affect him. Simi even says, "Oh, your dad might not even be able to come in." In narratives like that, like, and I love that because then you get a moment where Sam's just like feels frustrated because it's like all I do is play football. He gets frustrated about that. And then the narrative ends with them coming together. Like I said in the beginning, sometimes it takes bad things to unite us again. The team surprises him, brings them together. His dad is there. Everyone's there. What did you think of Sam's narrative this episode?
Yeah, it was a really heavy topic,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I thought the same, of course, with the shut up and dribble tweet. He got their attention though. It was a very profound tweet, and she replied right away. It's like you should worry less about the safety of our nation, worry more about being a mediocre player on a mediocre team. It's like,
Oof.
all right, you're clearly hurt, but he didn't stoop low, even though his chef wanted him to call her a bitch. He did do it. He's like, wait, like 800,000 people are going to see this. I don't need to be calling her a bitch. But he took the high road, and like his dad said, it's like big whoop, like brush it off, like be the bigger man. But I loved when he was like crying and like in frustration to the team, and then all of a sudden his dad was there and he cried in his dad's arms. He just broke down. It's like, I needed you more than ever right now. And he built this restaurant because of his dad, named after his dad. And we've been waiting for this Sam episode, and we got it. We sure got it.
I think we've heard Sam's dad's voice, right? Sam's dad, even though this is the first time we've seen him, he's had an impact on Sam's narrative in the show throughout, right? Every decision, Sam's always calling his dad. His dad knows about everything. His dad even knew about Rebecca. I love that moment of awkwardness.
Yeah. And then he's like, did you make it awkward? It's like, oh, I sure did. And Rebecca, had a little look. Right, right. I'm not overlooking it.
But what I liked is that after all this time of hinting at Sam's dad, we get to see him not just physically, but just as a person. You understand why Sam is the way he is. You understand, okay, yeah, if this is your dad, of course you're going to be this kind of person, this kind of understanding. Like, I love when the dad says, don't fight back, fight forward. It's a great line. I love that. It's tough to always kind of stand up and not stoop low to the places people want to pull you down to. It can be tough, but sometimes you just need the support and just keep going. Don't fight back, fight forward. And in that, he comes to realization, because early in the episode, it's established that Sam wants everything to be perfect. The dad, oh no, pressure. But through the circumstance, he realized not everything has to be perfect. If the food is good, no one's gonna care. And I love that.
Yes.
That's his learning. And like, no, leave the mirrors broken. It doesn't matter. People come and fight us. People have their views. People will be racist and prejudiced. As long as you have your family, your friends, your people around you, like, don't fight back. Keep fighting forward. That's the way you get back at people. And I love seeing that with the dad. I thought that was a great narrative.
Yeah, but these political pundits could like diminish you. It's like, all you do is dribble this tiny little ball. It's like, yeah, but that's why you love me. And the second, as Sam said, the second I miss a penalty or the second I fuck up, then you're going to tell me to go back to Africa, go back to where you came from. And like that really hit me. And Sam specifically has brought a lot of big emotional topics up in this show.
And that's the thing with sports in general, and a sport like football that is a global sport. You can't have a global sport without dabbling in politics. Like, everything is political. Every decision, we're dealing with such a grand scale of people and money and locations. It affects everybody, and so these things affect everyone. And I love that the show isn't afraid to kind of go to those places, right? In the same episode of having everyone connect string to their dicks.
Right, exactly. You know what? That's a great point. That's why, like, you need that humor to balance it out, and not just a little line. It's like something absolutely absurd. It's like, and the team still did it, but then like Danny's like, I'm not running away from you. Like, I don't want to test this.
I love Isaac's terrible corner.
Yes, I'm so glad we brought that up. And then it's like just kick it as hard as you can. It's like, okay, this big ogre man who literally is a center back who's known to kick it as deep as possible,
Yeah.
smashes the office window, and we get a nice Higgins just spilling the tea on him. He's like, oh, it's hot, it's hot.
I love that. I love that.
But I love Coach Beard's speech, like going back to that speech, the presentation about world football, or total football, and he's like,
Yeah.
my mother proudly displays her vibrator on the bedside table. It's like,
I literally have that written down as well. I was just like, wait, what? Or when he's talking to Ted earlier about pegging. I was like, what? What did you get up to,
yeah.
Coach Beard?
Or like the whistle, as you were saying before, the whistle with Roy Kent's whistle. It's like, oh, he's allergic to metal. And then the guys in the stands are like, he's just like us, world star, this football star. They're just like us.
They're just like us. I love it. I love that the bar's not getting many patrons because they haven't been doing well. It's
That's rough.
upset.
And they left at halftime.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that's it for this episode. One thing I'm curious though, I don't know. I feel I like the episode, but I feel that I think the last two episodes, the pacing has been off because I don't think they need to be over an hour long.
Okay.
Like I feel like instead of feeling like they're giving us more story, I feel like some storylines are dragging a little bit, or like I just miss like season 1 and 2 where there's like 30-40 minutes, boom boom, concise, moving along, where I feel like this time we have a lot of filler shots, right, of like the town and people opening their things, and so we have a lot of filler shots like that kind of, and for me, I'm not quite sure how it affects me. I have to go back and watch old episodes, but I feel like it affects the pacing, and that I become aware that this is over an hour long, right, as opposed to like, oh shit, it's finished already. I don't know how you feel about that, but I don't know, it's not a big deal, just something that's just kind of been like nitpicking in the back of my mind, especially had we had 2 episodes back to back over an hour long. It's just like, whoa, I became highly aware of that.
Definitely after last episode, I was like, all right, how long is this one? Like, I just wanted to check. Like 2 minutes in, I'm like, all right, oh, I got 58 minutes left. All right, it's another hour. It's another hour one. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of filler. I noticed a lot of the streets and the awnings and the storefronts, and it was the first time I really like paid attention to like the taste of Athens, like as a name. But I think it's nice to fill the community sense. But I'm sure from a film perspective, you pay attention to that stuff a lot more than I am.
I just feel like
it's also, there's like so many different topics. Like, there was a lot to do with Keely and Jack, and there was a lot to do with Sam. It could have just been like a Sam episode with a couple little things, and they have the pitch and they have the Arsenal game. But there was a lot there for sure.
But that's what I mean. I was talking to my wife about it, that there's a lot there, but we're also at episode 7 of 12, so we're across the halfway mark. And how much further have we really moved? Like with Keely and Jack, how far did we really move? With Rebecca's storyline, how far have we moved? With Ted's storyline, in terms of his ex-wife and relationship with his son, how far have we moved? With Jamie and Roy, how far have we moved? Is Jamie good enough to be better than Zava? Like, we're past the halfway mark, but I feel like we haven't moved that far forward in the narrative. I like what we're seeing, but even like, are we going to come back to Colin's narrative? Is he going to,
Definitely,
like things like that. So I'm wondering, like, there's so many little storylines being built, and I don't want it to feel like the back end is like loaded with like so much storylines to close it. Because if it's supposed to be the final season, it's either going to feel rushed to the back end, or I don't know if they going to tie everything together. I'm not sure. Again, this is a great show, so all my worries and concerns could be moot. But
no, that's perfect actually, because I know for sure something you've consistently said about this show is how impressed you are that they don't drag it along, that they just hit it and quit it, hit it and quit it, hit it and quit it, and move on, and don't like overdo the love triangle storyline. They just like, all right, here it is, we're moving on, pace, 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 like, and it's like a boxing match, but now it's like just way slower, just for sure. I
Mhm.
agree with you.
Yeah, I feel like there's something that's off with the pace. Again, we just crossed the halfway line, so we're not, the second half episodes could completely change the pacing of that. We don't know how long the episodes are, but I just feel, yeah, I just felt like, where are you going? Like last week's episode, right? There's things that it was doing with like Higgins and Will, like that was just, it felt like it was funny, but it felt like filler because that's, we're not following any of their storyline. It's just like a thing
Yeah.
that's there. So it's like, and it was, and I'm just not sure how it's going to move going forward. But again, I'm always excited to see where that's going. So let us know on social media at the Nerdy Bunch. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with me? Do you think the episodes should go back to being the original length, 30 to 40 minutes, or are you happy with the longer episodes and seeing the feel of the town and seeing moments with other characters? Let us know on social media at the Nerdy Bunch. Like I said, anything else, Tim?
No, that's it, Dave.
Okay, well, if you guys are into sports as you should be as well, because you're watching a Ted Lasso podcast, check out Nerdy Sports as well. It's on the same channels as this, so you shouldn't miss it. Tim and Scott they were talking about the playoffs recently, right? A couple of episodes on the playoffs.
Last episode was about Jimmy motherfucking Butler, man.
There
Oh
you
my
go.
God. The Heat moved on. I'm so excited. You got Heat Knicks.
There you go.
My
There you go.
best rivalry in all sports.
So check that out and future episodes, because I'm sure he's got lots of stuff planned in the pipeline. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Dave.
My name is English Dave, and this has been a Nerdy Bunch review of Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 7. And as always, Tim,
Keep it nerdy.